So this is me starting out on my solo paddle of the Wisconsin River from Arena to Spring Green. I'm going to speed up most of the footage just so that we get around some of the long times. Canoeing is not a very fast hobby, that's not the point, but I do want to get to the point of this story. The launch at Arena was pretty shallow, and it wasn't long before I had to get up and get out and drag the boat out to the main channel. You can see that here. Nice shallow flats. Some people fishing it. I also ended up deciding pretty quickly that I was better off with my kayak paddle than my traditional canoe paddle because of the headwind that was happening that day. You'll see some fishing poles in the boat. I had intended to do some fishing that day. That amounted to worse than nothing, as we'll see later in the video. And for the first, 3 hours or so of my trip, it was very pleasant. I paddled along, enjoyed nature, even ended up eating a lunch I'd packed as a soundbar. Shout out to Zadaran's Jambalaya for being my favorite lunch to eat cold and in random places. Things were so calm and flat, in fact, that as you can see here, I managed to forget to close my dry bag for a while to no ill effect. It's also worth noting that the timestamp here is meaningless. I'd forgotten to set the time and date on my camera before I went out on this expedition, so ignore that. Also, there's no sound from the original video because I was listening to the radio or my iPhone all day, and I already tried uploading part of it once and got a copyright claim from WMG, of course. So, as you can see, did a little fishing. That'll come into play later. So right about here is where everything goes to heck. I cast out to try and fish this structure and end up snagging on it. This is the last cast that this fishing pole will ever make. The Wisconsin River is very strong, and even with my drag all the way down, it's just stripping line away from me as I try and break the 10-pound leader that I have on. That happens right about here. Yeah. Now this is also where a fire rescue boat zooms by way too close and generates a wake that I dealt with very badly. I'll be the first to admit, there goes the fire rescue boat, I'll be the first to admit that I do everything wrong here. I put my canoe at the wrong angle, I set my paddle down to try and deal with my rod and reel, and it results in me going over. Now, this is me fishing around with my hat. It wasn't as bad as it looks. Thank goodness for my life jacket that I had on. Everything worked well there. Let's go ahead and look at that from a different angle. Now, I've added a bit of a freeze frame here so you can clearly see it was a fire and rescue boat, and it was way too close to me. So, I'm just saying, when you're out on these rivers, you gotta watch out, even for the boats you think ought to be your friends. Here we are, reeling it. I don't know why I thought I was safe here, but I thought I was, and then just right into the water. Now, fortunately, little plug for the Novacraft Trapper here, it stayed upright. All of my stuff that wasn't in my hands stayed in the boat. As you can see here, it has started a slight list to the left because things shifted there. Had to adjust for that later in the canoe trip. And there you can see the fire rescue boat speeding off. Just with no how even do you mind. Now we're going to speed things back up here a little bit. You can see me, I'm floating downriver with my boat, and I just got back to my boat. Dodging logs and underwater trees and other obstacles until I finally found a place to settle down where I could get my footing, get my bearings, and get a drink of water. That was quite an interesting process, and it took a while. Now, after we got there, I managed to flag down this passing couple in a canoe who came over and helped me out. Their names were Boomer and Tara, and they were out doing a float of the Wisconsin River out from Milwaukee. And they happened to come by, and I flagged them down, and they came over and helped me stabilize the boat while I got in it. And Tara actually had this sponge that she used like a car washing sponge to help soak some of the water out of my boat, which was great. That was a huge help. They were incredibly helpful, and big shout out to them. I don't know what would have happened if they hadn't come along, but they helped me get back out on the river so I could float the rest of the way. Oh, there's the sponge, and I was able to get out to the landing. Anyway, I stuck with Boomer and Tara for a while I was getting my legs and my paddle back underneath me, while I was getting comfortable back out on the water, and until I was able to finally get to the landing in Spring Green. We passed some people who were getting ready to tube, and saw some more boaters out on the water. We eventually split up, choosing different sides of an island to go around, and I never really saw them again after that. But it was, on the whole, it was a good day on the Wisconsin River. I enjoyed it. Little mishap, but that makes for a good story, right? Anyway, I finally made it to the Spring Green boat landing, got my boat docked, got myself out of the water, and was very grateful I'd packed a dry shirt along. Got things loaded up and headed home with quite the story to tell and a complaint to file with the DNR. Anyway, that's the story of my Wisconsin River trip from 2020. I hope you all enjoyed it. Bye. What? Yep. Thank you. Huh. Well, that was an adventurous day. Got swamped by a safety boat. I got swamped by a safety boat. Just came ripping past. It's alright.